best franchisees pay attention to the business. Again, they're not working in it, but they support their team. We've got folks that do great that are far away from their facilities, but the way that they pay attention to the facility, they make their weekly meetings, right? They hold their team accountable. They upskill them where they need to. They know the thing. They came to training and they learned it, and they know it's their responsibility to make sure the thing is delivered in a certain way, right? That's it at the end of the day. And I know that it sounds like there's got to be some other tricks or whatever. Like, really, that's the difference? Yes, really, that's the difference. Hello, Matt.
What's going on, Rick?
You, man. You. Training week. We've got nine or 10 clubs.
There's 9 clubs here.
9 clubs.
It's a new record.
30 people in the room getting trained to open their alloys. A lot of good folks, man. I talked to a lot of the coaches, directors. It's good to see the owners back in here. Got their place ready to roll. It's awesome. I love it.
It's definitely a fun week. I mean, it's exciting. Everybody's jacked up, ready to go. You know, it's a long week for them. They're not, probably like we talked about, it's not the last time you sat in a classroom for 5 days, but, you know, it's a good time.
I like how you mentioned today you pull at least the owners aside early on and set the right expectation, which I love.
Yeah, absolutely.
Be present. You're in class. So, like, let's do it, you know?
Just trying to get everybody prepared, you know?
That's right. You got a dad joke?
I do. I looked this up. I actually got to read it right now. I am reading a horror story in Braille. Something bad is going to happen. I can feel it.
That's actually pretty good. So did you see where the first pope ever from the U.S. was appointed?
I did.
Did you see that? Mm-hmm. Well, in spirit of that, how do you make holy water?
I don't know.
You boil the hell out of it. See, buddy, always on point. Always bringing around to current events. There's a lot going on here.
You're so sharp. You're so sharp.
A lot going on. Well, what we are going to talk about today is the three most common questions that I get on what's called the founder's call. So during the vetting process for someone, whether or not they're going to be awarded an alloy franchise or franchises, is something called the founder's call. And it's sort of the gatekeeping call to make sure that we both like each other and that, you know, we're going to give them, green light them to come to Discovery Day.
So it's kind of the end of the sales process, right before
the last step before they come live, meet us, and make a decision. We could also call it decision day. But it's really important because, you know, I have to jive with them. I've got specific questions I ask them, and then about halfway through the call, we flip the script, and then they ask me questions. So I thought just to address it globally, we would talk about the most common questions that I get. That way, if anyone just wants to know, and typically there'll be multiple people on the call, and they have very similar questions. So you'll notice if I just go one for one around the horn, right? And typically someone will ask a question that someone already has on their list, and they're very common. So I'll pick the top 3.
Okay, cool.
So you call them out, and then we'll beat them up.
I'll call them out. I love these podcasts. I don't have to do anything. First one, going right into the political environment. How will the economy affect my alloy?
That's exactly how it's asked. It is. It really is. Well, you know, they'll sort of start, well, you know, with the landscape, and what do you think about this? And so, look, I think we've probably talked about this at some point in time, but first of all, we've been in business for 33 years now, in our 34th year. So we were in business when 9/11 happened, and that was a downturn in the economy, and we grew through that. And certainly then 08-09 was a big downturn in the economy, and we grew through that as well. And people ask, well, why do you think that is? Because what they're basically asking is like, hey, it's a premium service that's expensive. If there's a downturn in the economy, which it seems like in the hypersensitive, you know, environment that we're in with social media and just the speed of information, it's like there's always something doom and gloom coming, right? They've been talking about a recession for 4 or 5 years. It was during the last administration. Now it's in this one and the tariffs. And I'm like, okay, they're just fear-mongering the heck out of everyone. Not that there's not some merit to it, but I think it's probably a little bit inflated. So all that being said, we've grown through both of those. We also were connected we had 2 clubs the second time around doing the same thing, personal training service. And we were also working with a bunch of other clubs in market, and they all did great during this time. And the question that I always pose back to the candidates is like, listen, if you were going to go into a undulating economy, which it always is, it's never fully a bear market forever or a bull market. It goes up and down. We all know this, right? Stock market's gone up and down forever. Sure. Average 10% growth over the long haul, sure, but there's going to be your ups and downs. if you were going into that environment, would you rather have a price sensitive crowd, like maybe a $10 gym, or would you rather have someone that's paying $500 a month, just as an example? And the answer is really the $500 a month client is a better client in that environment. And there's a couple of reasons. I think some of them are obvious once you hear them. One is for someone to have put their life together in a way and be gainfully employed or whatever that may be, to be able to afford on a regular basis a $500 a month membership means they're more than likely smarter than the average bear, right? That means they do understand that there are bull and bear markets, that things don't last forever. As a matter of fact, if you're really savvy, when it's a downturn, it's a really good time to dive in and make some purchases, and it's probably a really good opportunity for a lot of people, right? And I think a lot of our clientele fits into that category. They're not as concerned with the price of eggs, or it's not like they're not going to drive somewhere because a gallon of gas is more expensive. Good, I get it. Like for some folks, that's a big deal. For our clientele, it is not. Some examples of that were during the pandemic, which was probably the biggest downturn we've ever seen in any economy and worldwide. They sold out of like the Bugatti cars, right? Which are millions of dollars, right? Sold out. All the top handbag producers, all the top jewelry producers, all of those folks were busier than they've ever been. So luxury goods flying off the shelves, huge demand, wait lists, the whole deal, right? Yachts, I mean, you name it. Now, granted, like our customers don't all own yachts. That's another level. But it's a small example of people that have resources are not as affected by hiccups in the economy, right? So it's not like it's going to be the Great Depression. We're not going there. Even during the Great Depression, really smart people made a lot of money. That's all I'm going to say.
Well, I mean, our avatar, they're probably more financially sound. They're smarter. So like you said, they're going to stick around. They understand that they need this and they value it. Another thing that I've seen is even if, like, say, their housing market crash or the pandemic, it's not like won't lose people, but you also will have more opportunities come from other places you never knew of. Just for example, it's like, pandemic, people had more time on their hands to go buy Bugattis, to go work out and things like that. So like our model is just sustainable. Yeah. And even if things happen in the world, housing market, job losses, those people typically still will fill a void with us and it works out.
Yeah, totally agree. So based on what we've seen empirically and just the evidence that you've just talked about, if you are going to be in any market, I would rather be servicing people in the upper echelon financially because to your point, they're more insulated, right? Mm-hmm. They're smarter. They understand that things are temporary. When you look at the average car payment in the U.S. right now, it says across any market, it's $800 a month, right? Average. That's nuts. Mm-hmm. Well, I mean, I think that's probably at the tier 5 of our pricing. So that's going to be in the most expensive markets. Like you're going to be there in, San Francisco or New York, right? It's going to be something like that. It's still a great value to someone who would be able to buy personal training, which in those markets would probably be like $2,000 a month if you're paying for one-on-one training, right? Mm-hmm. So to your point, they're somewhat insulated from those ups and downs. They've got more margin in their life. That amount of money, while it's a lot of money, sure, to some people, it's not a whole lot of money to the customer avatar that we're going after. Right. So again, I don't know if there's going to be a recession. They've been threatening it for a while now. I'm sure at some point it's just inevitable that we have our ups and downs. I would much rather be servicing this upper crust. And what we've seen is nothing but growth in all of those stages. Yeah. So
you're still here.
Still here, 33 years.
It's one of your rocks.
That's right.
Still alive.
That's right.
All right. The second question you get is, where will you guys be in 5 years, or what's your 5-year vision?
Yeah, I usually ask that of them. Like, hey, if this thing works out perfectly, what does this look like for you in the future? Just to get an idea of what their head's at, what they're thinking. But yeah, people ask me the same thing. And I think, I tell them, listen, our goal is to have 800 clubs by 2030, which is a very lofty goal, but we are well on our way. We're a bit ahead of that pace. I also tell them that, like, hey, It's one thing to sell them or award them. It's another thing to get them open and get them to revenue and successful. I've been doing this for way too long to just sell a bunch of franchises and build a house of cards, right? I want integrity on the back end. I want people to get return on investment. I'm passionate about entrepreneurship and getting people in the best shape of their lives. That matters more to me. But of course, just like personal training, you have to sell them before you can help them. So yes, we have to award a lot of franchises, right? So do I think we can get there? Yes. Do I think we can do it with integrity? Yes. Our actual runway, Matt, as you know, because you're in on leadership teams, so we're having these meetings, is probably more around 1,500 clubs. So when we map the lower 48 with the major MSAs, with the home run territories, that gave us well over 800. So while that's a lofty goal, it's also conservative based on the actual capacity in the country. So we could probably go bigger than that. But that's still the goal because it's a very lofty goal.
Yeah.
Right? So we get to 800. And then I think the question from that is, and maybe what they're really asking is, how will you support us with that number of clubs? And all I can say is like, listen, it's just resources, right? It's simply hiring people when you need to hire them. Mm-hmm. And we're constantly looking for efficiencies on our team to coach people better, to build community, to bring franchisees together, to collaborate. In some of that, there is some efficiencies. But through that, we're just going to have to add warm bodies, period. You know, I mean, your team is growing and will continue to grow, probably the largest team that we have because it's franchise support, right? So when we know we reach these tripwires or whatever they are, or these stress points, we need to stay just ahead of growth. We don't want to hire a huge team and have them doing nothing, right? But we also don't want to get too far behind and have people not feel supported.
Right.
And so it's a dance. It really is. But all I'll say is we're pretty darn disciplined. We've been doing fitness in some capacity for a really long time. And you don't do that without doing the things that you need to do consistently over time. And so, again, I want people to open with integrity, get to revenue. That's also, by the way, how we make money. Mm-hmm. Right? There's not much meat on the bone on that franchise fee. If we don't get you open and get you making revenue, we don't make any money. I love it. It's the most aligned business model ever, right? So 800 by 2030, that's our 5-year plan. And in that, yes, we can support you. We'll just stay disciplined to hiring when we're supposed to hire.
Love it. I mean, overall, like I see us, I kind of describe us as our gym model itself. You know, we're like the anti-gym. We want you to come in. We want you to do well. I don't know if we're the anti-franchise, but sometimes I hear stories where I'm like, no, like we truly are aligned. Like we're only as good as you are. And I do love that. So
yeah, same. You know, I was on a podcast called like Something Disruption, and it's all about the franchise industry. And I was having a conversation with the lady who produces it, just asking questions about our business. And she was like, did you go to IFA, you know, the International Franchise Association? I'm like, no, I haven't even really joined it yet. She's like, how many locations do you have? And I was like, well, we've awarded like 330 and we're around 100 opening like 5 or 6 a month. There's like a silence on her end. And she's like, you haven't even joined the IFA yet? I'm like, no, I'm too busy helping franchisees make money, like laughingly, right. But like, isn't that it? Right. To your point, like in the gym business, like you absolutely have to learn to sell people. You have to sell them the solution before you can help them, to your point, in our in market, what we actually do. Right.
Yep.
But the fact is, like, we really want them to come in, use it, and we want them to be successful. So we're going to invest a lot in our customers. And to your point, we're very similar in franchising. And, you know, that's why franchising has all these legal stop gaps and, securities and guardrails, because it can be a business where you could sell a lot of franchises and then disappear and leave people hanging out there. I'm not going to do that. So maybe in some ways we are anti-franchise because I'm more concerned about getting them open and getting them to be successful than I am about awarding them. The fact is, though, you have to award them to do the second thing. But the second thing is the thing, right?
So I told everybody here.
Yeah.
A lot of people, they're why, I'm like, why are you here? And like, I want to help people. I want to get community. And it's like, all right, well, you want to do that. You got to sign them up.
Yeah.
Can't help them if you don't have them in front of you.
It's so true. Hey, it's similar with franchising. It's like, listen, I'm looking for good partners who can help me change the world and help us all make some money. And we could do both. And there's nothing wrong with that. And so that's my answer every single time. And I know what they're really asking. And that's usually the extra question, which is like, am I going to, and sometimes they don't ask it and I'll just ask it on their behalf.
Right.
I'm like, listen, if I'm you, I'm thinking, great, 800 locations, awesome. But I have 6 locations going into California to, Irvine area, whatever that may be. How are you going to help me?
Right.
800 locations. Does the rising tide raise all ships as far as value of their investment? Yes. But also, hey, what about me? Right. I don't want to get lost in the mix. Right. There's some magic to the relationships and all that.
All about me. Again, it's the same model.
Same model as what we do in market. But yeah, it's a legitimate concern. Know that we're disciplined. We have to support you. That's the most important thing to me.
Cool. All right. What is the difference between good and great?
Yeah, that's a good one. So people will ask, and I think this is a great question. What's the difference between your really high performing franchisees and the ones that are sort of in the middle, right? Mm-hmm. I have beat this dead horse so much, but I can't emphasize it enough. It's people. Your ability to recruit, hire, and lead good people and pay attention to your business, be involved, right? I'm not saying I need you in there counting reps or servicing revenue, taking personal training sessions, but you need to be in your business, right? And the more the merrier. And I can't tell you how important it is to be a good leader. I do ask questions on the Founders Call about leadership because I want to know that you have any idea or have some experience recruiting, hiring, and leading good people. I've had people on the call that are like, well, I work in tech. I work in my basement, home office. I'm like, great. What do you do for hobbies? It's like, well, I play Dungeons and Dragons or I game online. And there's absolutely nothing wrong with that. That person is going to have a really hard time sitting down with what I know is the ideal face of an alloy, outgoing, looks the part, all the things, right? Extremely extroverted. They're going to struggle to connect with that person, right? And so that person's not going to be able to sit down and say, who wants to change the lives of 130 people to 150 people in my community? Who's with me? Mm-hmm. That ideal face of an alloy, which I know what they look like, is going to be like, I don't think I can work with this person, right? So it's really important that they're wired the same way. That's it. That is the crux move. It is, and I'll be saying the same thing 5 years from now. People, it's a service. It has to be delivered in a certain way with a certain amount of enthusiasm and integrity, and that's all based on people.
Yeah. I mean, like you always said, I gave it to him this morning. We're going to ride the bike. You got to have the right people to pedal it.
Yep.
Go in the same direction. I mean, I tell them, look, everybody's different. Play to your strengths and weaknesses. You got to lead from an ownership standpoint. It's whatever it takes. And that comes down to the rest of the team. Because if I see you're out here busting your tail, whatever we got to do to be successful, guess what? We're all falling in line.
Yeah. Well, you're leading by example, right? Mm-hmm. Yeah. And so I think people ask early on, what's one thing you've learned? I'm like, I don't know that we didn't set the expectation wrong at the start. And I'm just being completely transparent. Like we didn't drive home the fact that like, this is a business. It's a living, breathing entity. It's not a passive investment. It's not a real estate syndicate or a self-storage thing. It's a business. It's a living, breathing entity that needs attention, just like a child, almost like it needs water, it needs food, it needs, care. It's like same thing with the business, right? And the people are part of that matrix. So like you have to support your people. One thing that I heard from you today, which I had forgotten that you do on training week, is you bring all the owners in and you set the stage. It's like, listen, pay attention, lead from the front, show your team that this is important to you, right? And the best franchisees pay attention to the business. Again, they're not working in it, but they support their team. We've got folks that do great that are far away from their facilities, but the way that they pay attention to the facility, they make their weekly meetings, right? They hold their team accountable. They upskill them where they need to. They know the thing. They came to training and they learned it, and they know it's their responsibility to make sure the thing is delivered in a certain way, right? That's it at the end of the day. And I know that sounds like there's got to be some other tricks or whatever. Like, really, that's the difference? Yes, really, that's the difference.
No, I mean, that's why you get in franchise. Everything else is set. Right? We give you the thing.
We built you the bike. Yeah. You have to get on and pedal it, right? It's a perfect bike. Like, listen, there's all kinds of bikes. There's road bikes, mountain bikes, triathlon bikes, beach bikes. I get it. So we've got a great bike for what we do, but you have to pedal that bike. And that means you have to have a team of people. Yep. And they got to be good. And so, yeah, that's it. I mean, at the end of the day, those are the three main questions I get. And listen, I'll just keep coming back to this people thing. There's so many opportunities on those calls to talk about performance, and they're like, who hasn't done well or who's done this? It's all the questions, and a lot of them are fear-based, and a lot of them are mitigating risk and all the things. I get it, but it's just people. That's it. If you can recruit and hire and lead good people, my favorite parts come in today and talk to all these new people here, and they're all excited, and some of the teams are just like really dynamic. I'm like, again, we can't call it because you never know until they start doing the thing, but it's very encouraging to talk to some of these teams and see who they've brought here. And by the way, like podcast as an example, there is one person here who's a director for one of our clubs in California. And she's like, oh, it's so great to meet you. She's like, I've listened to a bunch of the podcasts. I'm like, I am so sorry that we had to put you through that. Like, that's just a ha-ha, right? I'm like, I'm so sorry you had to do that. She's like, no. The podcast is the reason I took this job. right? So they want to be a part of that culture or whatever, but that's good. Her owner is a really good leader. And by the way, this club showed up to training with 20 starting point sessions, which is our induction session, already set, nearly 300 leads. I mean, they're on it, right? But they're fully bought in. You know why? Because the owner is fully bought in.
Yeah.
That's it.
It's pretty cool.
Yep.
I get to refer to as the voice today. So I think you know this. I do a voiceover of every workout.
Oh, no.
So people listen to me every day. But, you know, some people don't know who I am. So the guy was talking to me. He's like, "You're the voice." I'm like, "Oh God!"
There's a whole TV show made about you.
Yeah, the man on fire.
Somebody told me like they were in that discussion about the podcast, and they're like, and they're from Jersey, so like I have to listen to it on 1.5 because you guys just talk too slow. I'm like, we do not talk that slow.
Hey y'all,
gonna go over and do some training. Yeah. Hopefully we talk faster than that. But
no. Cool.
Yep. Any no bonus questions? Anything burning that you want to ask?
Oh, okay. I have a bonus.
All right. Do you?
That he already told me, but all right. How do you make personal training personal with 6 people?
Yeah. Believe it or not, we do get that question. It's not super common, but I think some people that have experienced personal training as a consumer don't get it, right? So look, we'll take you all the way back to year 2000-ish when we organically were seeing people bring friends in to work out. Mm-hmm. They were paying less per person. Mm-hmm. We were actually making more per session, and we were helping more people, and it was more fun. So it was literally a win-win. Any arena, it was all a win. So imagine ripping the Band-Aid off from a one-on-one training model and going to just personal training in a small group when it wasn't a broken business model. It was a huge risk, but it turned out to be the right thing, which, again, it made us the highest revenue per square foot facility, start speaking, consulting, licensing, finally franchising. So yeah, I mean, like one little decision like that led to some really cool things down the road, right? Mm-hmm. And through that, we have evolved how we do it. And obviously a big part of that's technology, right? So currently we have some really cool tech, and I think we've gotten into it on other podcasts, so I'm not going to describe it in detail, but we have really good technology for recording client goals, client, again, progress, but even more importantly, how do we apply really good programming principles to individuals based on where they are in the process, if they're injured or not, just what they need. And they're going to have some specific goals, that they want to work on, and we can even address those things. So yes, we can do it. We've been doing it a long time. It really is about doing a proper induction, which we call the starting point session, recording that information, and then applying it in a way that any coach can grab that iPad and run the play and actually apply the right version of a workout principle that we do on that day to that individual on that day. Whether they're tired or they're beat up or they have an injury or they're a beginner or they're super advanced. It's like, look, we can cover all of that, right? Mm-hmm. So it's hard for people to envision it, but when I describe like somebody grabs something and there's 6 tiles and it tells you who they are, what they should do as far as level of fitness, which is how you apply to the workouts. Then it has their do's and don'ts or goals and injuries. That's it. And then I don't get too much into it. And then they're like, oh, okay, cool. Right. So, but it is a very common question for people that have done personal training. And then, of course, you get the questions about the alley. What about the bodybuilders? I'm like, we don't get a lot of those. What about powerlifters? We also don't get a lot of those. Right? I get very few people that are in their 50s that come in and say, hey, I want to do a powerlifting meet. If they want to do that, they're probably at a gym that does a lot of powerlifting, and they've probably already found somebody that can help them. Right?
Yeah,
That's not what we're looking at.
It's just not our avatar. I mean, overall, what we do is it's all about client. We already talked about it's all about me. So that induction process, getting the information, appropriately applying it to the person to hit their individual needs to make it personal training. And then extensions of that, we have all the triggers for like one-on-one accountability sessions. And then we use more technology to help you outside of the studio. So the whole experience is built around helping everybody where they're at. Right. It's not just everybody comes in and does the same thing. From the far, it probably would, but when in the actual application of it, not at all.
Well, read our ridiculous amount of client success stories that we have now. It's always so heartening to see someone write a description about what we do from the consumer lens. These are clients of gyms that are like, I love working out at Alloy. The workouts are always varied. They always take into account my injuries. They're very encouraging. And I love the community of having the other people in my group. It's so supportive. It's like, okay, what she said or what he said, right? That's it. So people speak to it better than I can because I have this curse of knowledge. They just explain it dead on, right? I like that there's other people there. It's specific to me. They work around my injuries. They really look out for me, make sure my form's great. And I've been to other gyms and been hurt or done these things. And everyone's really encouraging and they really look after me. I feel like I'm seen. They really care about me. I'm like, oh, okay, that's it in a nutshell, right? If you can do that, and obviously the magic in putting people into small groups is it's a much better value. You know, you and I were talking a little about pricing and with one of our franchisees before we started the podcast. And they're in like an expensive area, and they're like, man, we've been selling personal training. These are the people that are going to be working in the facility that have been hired that are here. We've been selling 25-minute personal training sessions at an LA Fitness for $70 a session. They're like, this is the biggest steal of a bargain of all times. I'm like, great. That's the energy you need to sell it with or speak to it, you know, through, because you're going to project that onto the customer. Like, this is the biggest no-brainer ever, right? It's fun. You're going to meet some really cool people that are just like you, but it's $70 a session. That's a smoking deal. In that same market, it's going to be $150, $200 a session, right?
Actually, you're saving them from a terrible decision and are going to help them.
And the training's better because the person that was telling me the story this morning is like, and the person that we're end up giving them to has only been certified for like a week and they haven't trained anyone.
All right.
And they're paying that kind of price. It's like, okay, we're going to provide a much better experience. We're controlling the product because we write the workouts and we have the process and the algorithms to get the person from the door, if this, then that, to the right level. That's how we do it. And if you think about it, we've been doing it since year 2000. We did one-on-one training before that. So I certainly know how to differentiate it, right? That's 25 years of this one thing to perfect it the way that we have. And it's hard to take something that's that complex. And I always talk about you, Matt, and your programming. I mean, you were programming all kinds of wacky stuff for gyms all over the world. But to be able to program in a way that can accommodate all these different fitness levels and then to make it delivered in such an easy, what looks so simple, it's not. It's nuanced. And it took 25 years to figure it out. And then you put a little bit of tech around it to make it easier, and you're cooking with oil. So usually when I explain that to people, they're like, okay. And then once they experience it, like, that was great, right? I got all my needs looked after. And I worked around my bad shoulder, and it was fun because there's other people in there. I'm like, yep, you get it.
Yeah, I think it comes from anybody that's done it is it's overcomplicated. Like, they just make things more complicated than they need to be. I need to do all this extra stuff. And it's like, no, you don't.
Right.
Keep it simple.
Yeah. Push, pull, hip, knee, core, met, finisher, go home. We all do it. Whether, you want a curtsy lunge, have at it. I don't think you invented it, right? I might do a regular lunge. Woo, big difference, right? So right. I always use that as an example because it's like, listen, man, what are we doing? That's all about ego. Like, if we can get people to move more, we can get them to show up to the gym 2 or 3 days a week, create an amazing customer experience, have very scientific programming, but deliver it in a fun, friendly way. Amazing, right? But it's not easy to do that. We have just been doing it forever, so we have it figured out. And it would be too nuanced to go into the details of how we do it on this podcast. But yeah, we can make personal training in a group of 6 personal training.
Cool. I have no more bonus questions.
I have no more answers. That's it. Those are the questions I'm asking. I hope that helps you guys that are either looking at Alloy or it's just a reiteration of some questions you might have asked in the past. And we'll catch you next week.
Cool. Thank you.